Good afternoon everybody, Jason here with my latest Digging for Antigua video. Haven't done one for some time. Last one was on the 28th of July, although that one actually wasn't a Digging for Antigua video. That one was about my preparations for a possible tropical storm moving all the pots around, if you remember that. So today is the 30th of September. It's a good 2 months or more since I did the last video, so quite a lot has happened. I've done a full round of Insanity, which is like a circuit training thing to supplement my fitness regime, which has been going on since March, I think. No, January 2020. Correct. This year, what a year. And yeah, and Kirsty's been away. She took Rosie to England, and she was away from the house for about 5 or 6 weeks. So haven't really had a lot of time to do any more videos, so we're going to do one today. Going to show you what's been happening in the garden, quite a lot, so let's go and have a look. So I'm going to start off on the balcony looking down onto the grow zone to give you an overview. You might notice that the camera looks a little bit different today. That's because I'm using my cell phone, which has got 3 different lenses on it, instead of my iPad. The iPad, long story behind that one, I've used that for most of my videos I've done the last couple of years, but that one ended up in Spain with a stranger after Kirsty lost it going through the X-ray machine at the airport in London fairly recently. So we haven't got that back yet. I'm going to work with this cell phone now, and actually it's quite nice to have a wide-angle view like that. So this is the garden, and it doesn't look an awful lot different, I don't think, from this angle. One of the things you might notice is that this near side area with these upright posts was covered in cucumbers, but over the last few weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, we had a huge infestation of caterpillars which ate most of the melon type plants in the garden. So that's cucumbers, cantaloupes, watermelons, and also pumpkins. So as we go around the garden, you'll see the devastation that those caterpillars left. I do have a solution now, which I will highlight a little bit later. From this angle, I think the biggest thing you can see is the passion fruit has absolutely gone crazy and is still growing like a triffid and growing all around the place. You can see the pumpkin patch behind that. The pumpkin patch, fewer pumpkins than there were because of the caterpillars, but I don't know if you can see in there lots of sweet potatoes. They've kind of taken over the whole area. The pumpkins are all still alive actually. They didn't die like the cucumbers and the melons, but the caterpillars certainly got a lot of them. In fact, there you can see a little bit of healthy looking pumpkin, which his root system is all inside that pumpkin patch. Here you can see the seedling table that I made out of one of the children's old beds, and there's quite a few seeds in various stages. Some I just planted yesterday, others I planted a week or 2 ago. You can see here there's some cantaloupe and some squash in this middle tray here to the right hand side, there to replace the ones that the caterpillars got. So as soon as that started to get very much out of control, I planted some new seedlings, also some kale and arugula, and there's various other things in there, lettuce and a whole range of stuff I planted yesterday. Moving down into the garden just somewhat, here on the steps is my secondary herb patch. That's some mint there in between the watering can and the bucket, and here's some basil and various other bits and pieces. And there's a number of other things that I just wanted to point out here. These here are some lemons and some oranges which were planted from pips out of fruit. They've done pretty well. This is my mimosa. All the leaves fell off that and it all fell to bits, and then I just cut it right back and it's regrown, so that's all cool. This chives has been in the pot for months now, and it's actually starting to come into its own. I'm harvesting that on a regular basis. And then here's some more purple basil, and that one I think there is a lemon basil, and the other mimosa, which also had been pruned severely. Inside the grow zone finally, you can see the very large area now of sweet potato leaves. I think there's about 4 or 5 plants of actual sweet potato roots in there, and it's just completely taken over this area. If you remember from the last videos, there was a very large amount of pumpkin leaves in this area here, climbing up these fences here and all around this area, and then on this fence as well. You can see some new growth leaves that have grown in the last week or so on these pumpkin stalks, which were defoliated by almost completely by the caterpillars. These are pretty new as well. So it has weathered the storm, unlike some of the other plants. You can still see some of the damage here on some of the leaves that were half eaten. Looking down the garden from the middle of the pumpkin patch, you can see there's a few changes here. On this left hand side here, there were a lot of watermelons and cantaloupes. I've taken most of those out. There is still one cantaloupe plant in there which is recovering, and it is growing new leaves. And here I've planted a purple basil and a lemon basil where there were watermelons before. The basil grows like crazy, as you can see in the herb patch here. This is actually 3 or 4 basil plants, but they're growing absolutely crazy. And there's various other herbs in there as well. Just looking back on this left hand side, this plant up here is a tomato which has gone crazy and grown really, really big, and it's, in fact, I don't know if you can see from there, it's gone through the top of the screen. It is producing tomatoes, although still not getting as many tomatoes as I would have expected. I don't know if it's just pollination issues, but we are getting some now. So standing just behind the herb area, I just wanted to show you the detail of the fence. This fence, there's the fence from the other side that was covered in these cucumber plants, and you can see now I've just planted a new one. I think I planted that yesterday. And then I've also planted more peppers, different varieties. I've got some habanero peppers, which I think there's a little pepper on the plant there, and I think these other ones are seasoned peppers, Caribbean seasoned peppers. And then there's probably some more sweet peppers, those small plants at the front. So I've kind of changed the strategy of the kinds of plants that I'm planting in the garden. And then here, looking down here, I've got a few carrots in the ground. Again, this was where there was all cantaloupes and this kind of plant. I've taken those out from this area. These celeries are actually growing pretty well now. They take quite a long time to get to this stage. I don't know whether it's a variety thing or whatever, but I am cropping these little stalks and having them in green salads. So I don't know how much thicker these plants will get, but I'm kind of hopeful. Moving down a little bit, there's another tomato there. And there's some mizuna, which is like a peppery leaf. It's looking very green on this video. And then that's a sorrel, and then some more traffic, and then some more cucumbers, and then tomato, and then we've got some more lettuces around there. So you can see I've planted some sort of leafy greens in the garden in place of where the cantaloupes were. There's 2 types of lettuce there. I think these ones are romaine, and then these ones are local lettuces. This little area has been for the longest time the kale area. You can still see the plants doing pretty well there, although these were also affected by the caterpillars. I've been trying to plant other kale that I've grown from seed. These other ones I'd grown from seedlings which I bought from somebody. These ones have been grown by seed. That's the only one that's left out of the first lot that I planted some weeks ago, and they haven't grown very much. I think it's a different variety of kale as well, but I've just planted some more seeds yesterday, so hopefully there will be more luck with these, because the kale is really cool in salads and we really like it. The 2 okra plants in the grow zone continue to grow really well. You can see now that the roots are getting really thick. They're kind of tree-ish really. They're like woody stems on them now. But these okras are producing huge amounts of okra. We've got a whole load to eat tonight for tea. Missed out one bed and I've just jumped straight to the bottom where the corn patch was. Now just recently in the last week or so I've taken out all the corn. That was my second planting. I did get about half a dozen cobs, but for this whole area, which is about, I don't know, 15-16 square feet, you know, 5 cobs of corn isn't a huge amount of yield, and I think I can probably do better with other plants, so I'm concentrating on other things. So in this one so far, down on that bottom left hand corner there, I've got some celery, and then these are lots of little lettuce seedlings in there. These are old lettuce which are kind of bolted, but I still use them for the tortoises even though it's leathery lettuce. And then I've just planted some more squash plants in there, so hopefully we get some nice butternut squash. And then just turning around, this was where we had I think in the last video we still had the zucchini in that corner, and then we had beans and peas along this area with a frame. I've taken all that frame out, took the beans and the peas kind of finished. They weren't overly successful. The beans were better than the peas. In here now I've got some these are beets. You can't really see the individual seedlings. This one's been in the ground for quite a long time. These little, they're still purple, the leaves on these ones. But hopefully they will produce beets in due course. I planted a load of radishes in this area here, which has got some, you see some potting compost on it. And then these are some more peppers of various different varieties. And I just wanted to show some detail of the various peppers that we're growing, and they're actually fruiting and producing pods at the moment. Most of these peppers that have been in the ground for quite some months had fruited, produced pods, and then a lot of the leaves had died off. They are perennials, so I thought that I might be able to get another crop of leaves and some more pods out of them, and that is exactly what has happened. So you can see here, these are some like the Greek pepper type things you get in vinegar in pots. They're refruiting and they're producing some nice pods. These are slightly spicy, not overly spicy, but they're tasty. I've had another crop of the cherry peppers, some of those which I pickled. I don't know if any of you saw those videos. And then in the next bed we have frigatellos and banana peppers. There are fruits or pods on these. Let me see if I can find them. Oh, there's the jalapenos as well. See the jalapeno? If I can focus the camera on that. It behaves a little bit differently than my iPod, or my iPad. So I'm not an expert at using this phone, although in theory the camera's better. There's some yellow peppers. These are quite some size. These ones are very, very tasty. They're sweet, they're not spicy, but they're absolutely delicious. Really nice peppery, fruity flavour. And you can see there's some really lush foliage. And these leaves are not being attacked by caterpillars at the moment. More jalapenos in there. In the next bed there are some sweet peppers, bell peppers. There's various ones in here somewhere. Can't see them at the moment. Oh, there's a nice, fairly big one there. A couple of nice ones on there. And in amongst some of these new ones, as I say, some of these new ones are habaneros, which are actually very spicy. Let's go and have a look, see if I can find one of what I think is a habanero. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go. So you see that pod there? All crinkly and nasty looking. That to me I think is a habanero. I don't think it's a seasoned pepper. So this is the same side of the garden as the grow zone and the seedling table on the other side to the house, to the garage. This one here is a pigeon pea. I planted that out a few weeks ago. It's going really, really well. That produces like a pulse or a bean. You may have eaten pigeon peas. You may not really know what they're like. I'm not sure I've eaten them before. But it grows into a reasonable sized shrub and hopefully should have lots of pods on it and we get some beans from that. Here I planted out a white guava, which I've had for some time, but I hadn't planted it out, so that's doing pretty good. Over here is a Suriname cherry, which is a little bit on the small side. It is still alive and still growing, so it's just more slow growing than the other one. This is a fairly recent acquisition. I bought it as a decent sized seedling. It's been in a pot since I got it about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I planted it out a few days ago into the garden. This one is a golden apple. Come around to the other side of the house now, and this is the dog sweet potato patch. It's so called because the dogs keep attacking it. See, there's a big bare area there where they attacked it the other day. I do put the bins and everything in front of this area now, and big plastic containers. I've moved the bins out of the way because I don't think anybody wants to look at my bins. It's going pretty well. We also had recently some cows in the field next door, and this area outside the fence was covered in sweet potatoes, and the cows ate most of it, but it has grown back again. So these things are pretty resilient to and resistant to dog attack and cow chomping. Now these sweet potatoes, although they're doing pretty well, are being attacked a little bit by caterpillars. I don't know if there are actually any caterpillars on them at the moment, but this is caterpillar damage, these holes, I think. And similarly with the cucumbers that are in pots just over here, that's definitely had some caterpillar damage. I've killed quite a few caterpillars off these. When I first started getting a lot of caterpillars, you have to look underneath the leaf because they tend to be underneath the leaf rather than on top, especially during the day. I did try manually removing them as a good organic gardener, and I really tried my best. I must have killed thousands of caterpillars off various different plants, off the cucumbers and the squash and the melons, and to no avail in the end. They just managed to out-compete me, I guess. I just couldn't keep up with them. So what I've decided to do now, and I just wanted to share it with you, is I've looked on the forum, the Antigua Gardeners Forum, and had some advice off various people. And what I've decided to do is to do some kind of chemical intervention. So I've got a couple of different things. These were things that were recommended by people on the forum. And I got a couple of different insecticides, and I got a nice spray bottle at a very good price, which you pump it and it pressurizes, and then it's just very easy to spray. It's a really nice fine mist. And I've got 2 different types of chemicals. Now ideally I'm not going to use this one. This one here, I haven't opened it yet and I haven't used it yet. It's called Fast Tac. It's produced in the Caribbean. In fact, both these things are produced by Caribbean based agrochemical companies. This one is a pyrethroid insecticide, so it's a little bit more toxic than this one. So this one is based on, you know, those green coils you burn to get rid of mosquitoes. It's got a similar insecticide in it to that. It's a pyrethroid. So it's not the same, but it's similar. A broad spectrum insecticide. Now, I'm not I'm not going to use that unless I really have to. So what I've actually got, and what I've already started using, you can see by the packet, is this one. Now this is Bt toxin. So this Bt toxin is an organic insecticide. Sounds awful, just Bt toxin, but it's essentially a compound produced by a bacteria, naturally occurring bacteria, and it's really, I think, just like a powdered culture. This one is quite a strong version of it. The real good thing about this, why it's organic, is this is non-toxic to humans. This is an insect toxin that doesn't affect humans at all. Or this other one, you can't eat the vegetables for 7 days after using it. This one, there's no waiting period at all. Although on the packet it does tell you to use all kinds of chemical warfare suits when you're using it, not getting it on your hands. But it also says you can more or less use the fruit immediately, because this is a very specific poison for insects. So I'll let you know whether I have success. But the idea is I'm going to plant out some more squash and cucumbers and melons, and hopefully I can keep a grip on these caterpillars from now on. In this area of this side of the house, there's quite a few more pots and plantings on this side than there was when I did the last video a few months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. Here we have the plants. I think I did a video with these plants in. This one is a sugar apple or custard apple, and then so is that one. That one's obviously grown an awful lot more than the other one, although they were planted at the same time. I've also got, this one is a soursop, which is growing quite a lot, and then here we have the raspberry, which has grown an enormous amount. It's probably 5 foot tall now, and it came in a pot, maybe only a few inches high, 6-7 inches high, can't remember now. And then the rest of the garden, some of these things you've seen before. There's a couple of bananas right up there, and some more okra plants, and these ones are aubergines or eggplant. And then we've got all kinds of tomatoes in pots and some peppers, which are producing. The peppers are doing better than the tomatoes. I'm not having a fantastic look with tomatoes. I get them to grow and I get the foliage to look really good, but I don't seem to get so much fruit. Lots of flowers, not so much fruit. And then here off to this side I have a couple of tomatillos, which are kind of from the same family, which is the nightshade, deadly nightshade family, as tomatoes, and peppers as well, from that family. So these produce they're basically part of the genus Physalis. So they produce something a little bit like the fruit that I used to call Physalis. See that little lantern there? So it's like a little hollow lantern, and then it develops a fruit inside it which looks like a green tomato. So there's another one here as well. And they use them in Mexico and places like that. In fact, there's quite a few. I haven't noticed so many, so that's really good. I'm looking forward to those. So they make a green salsa in Mexican cuisine out of this fruit. You have to wait until it fills that little lantern completely and starts to split the case, because they produce quite a lot of cyanide, these plants. One of the reasons you can't eat the leaves and stems of peppers and tomatoes is because they have quite a lot of cyanide in them. As I said, they're related to the nightshade, or deadly nightshade, which again is a poisonous plant. Even the fruit's poisonous on that. But these ones have been grown from seed, and then now in pots you see there's some banana peppers, and then this is Fregatellos. They're doing pretty well. So all in all, it's looking quite good. So I hope everybody is growing things in their garden or in pots on their landings or on their balconies or wherever, and you're having a good time doing it as much as I am. So I will see you later. Bye for now.